All right, adventure lovers, get ready. Because today we're heading north, way north, to the land of glaciers and geysers. You guessed it, Iceland.
A land of fire and ice, myth and marvel. This is going to be good.
And we're going all in for this deep dive. Our listener sent in their Iceland's Magical Northern Lights itinerary, a 7-day whirlwind tour from Throttle Travel, packed with more adventure than you can shake a hiking stick at.
Throttle Travel puts together some pretty incredible trips. I've got to hand it to them.
Okay, so day one, we're hitting the ground running.
Yeah.
Well, maybe not literally running, more like strolling.
More like landing, grabbing your bags, and heading straight for that oh-so-charming city center.
Right. We land, settle in, and then it's straight into a walking tour of Reykjavík. Harbor, City Hall, the works. We're talking a crash course in Icelandic history and charm, all before dinner.
And speaking of dinner, did you see that 11 meals are included in this itinerary?
11. Okay, so we can save our krona for souvenirs and maybe an extra Skyer yogurt or two, which, side note, I've heard is like the national food of Iceland. Or is that fermented shark?
We can debate the national food another time, but let's talk about day 2 in Reykjavik. That's where things get really exciting.
Okay, you're talking about the adventurous Northern Lights cruise.
Well,
Tell me more about this. Do we get, like, special Northern Lights viewing binoculars?
binoculars are always a good idea. The real magic happens when you sail away from the city lights into Faxaflói Bay under the cloak of night. That's prime time, my friend, for catching the aurora in all its glory.
Okay, that makes sense. Less light pollution, better chance of seeing those dancing lights.
Exactly. And being out on the water adds a whole other dimension to the experience.
Is it just the darkness? Or is there something else that makes a boat a good place to see the Northern Lights?
Imagine this. You're on this moving platform, right?
Yeah.
And it can adjust its position based on, well, wherever the auroral activity is strongest.
So it's like having a Northern Lights hunting guide, but in boat form.
You got it.
Okay, I am so in. Day 3, we're hopping on the legendary Golden Circle route. Glacier, Gullfoss. Even just saying the names, you know you're in for something epic, right? But what makes these spots so special? Fill us in.
Imagine witnessing the raw power of Glacier, a geyser erupting like clockwork, spewing these massive jets of boiling water high into the air.
Talk about a hot spring.
And then there's Gullfoss, the golden waterfall. It's just this thunderous cascade of glacial meltwater plummeting into this rugged canyon. It's nature at its most dramatic.
I'm getting chills just thinking about it. And if geysers and waterfalls weren't enough, day 3 ends at Seljalandsfoss Waterfall, where you can actually walk behind the cascading water. Talk about a photo op. Although, hold on a second, I'm seeing here in the brochure that this itinerary is ranked Activity Level 3.
That's right. Good catch. Active but manageable, they call it. So you're going to want to make sure you've got the right gear.
What, like a helmet?
A helmet for the waterfall. No, I'm talking about comfortable shoes, for one thing. You'll be doing a fair bit of walking, sometimes over uneven terrain,
Yeah.
exploring those ancient lava fields, that sort of thing.
Okay, good to know. Comfortable shoes.
Okay.
Okay, so day 3, before the waterfall, we get to do something pretty incredible. We get to stand on the Mid-Atlantic Ridge in Þingvellir National Park.
Wow, yeah. Straddling 2 continents at once, North America and Europe.
That's got to be a once-in-a-lifetime kind of experience, do you think?
And it's not just a geographical marvel, right? I mean, Þingvellir is steeped in history. It's actually where the world's oldest parliament was founded. Over 1,000 years ago, can you believe that? Vikings, gathering to make laws.
Talk about standing at the intersection of history and geology.
Mm.
And speaking of which, up next, we've got the Lava Exhibition Center. A little bit of education to go with our adventure.
Right, because understanding the science behind what you're seeing, it just makes the whole experience that much more awe-inspiring, Volcanoes, glaciers, tectonic plates, it's a lot to take in.
It really is. Okay, on to day 4. Hit me with it.
Get ready for black sand beaches, basalt columns that look like they were carved by giants, and a symphony of bird calls. We're talking about Reynis Fjara, a place so starkly beautiful it feels almost otherworldly.
I mean, yeah, black sand beaches. How cool is that? Is that a volcano thing?
You bet it is.
All right, tell me more. This is the kind of thing I need to know. Impress my friends with my vast knowledge of geological formations.
Oh, absolutely. So imagine molten lava flowing into the ocean, right?
Yeah.
And when it hits that cold water, it cools so rapidly that it shatters into these tiny little fragments. And that, my friend, is how you get black sand. A dramatic dance between fire and ice, if you ask me.
I love it. And speaking of dramatic, the brochure mentions something about Dirralay, a peninsula with these incredible views of the coastline.
Ah, yes, Stirole. It's basically this massive arch of volcanic rock jutting out into the sea. And the views from up there, truly breathtaking. You've got these panoramic vistas of black sand beaches stretching out in either direction.
On puffins.
Yeah.
Don't forget the puffins. I read that there are puffins.
Oh, yes, the puffins. If you're lucky, you might even spot some of these adorable birds nesting in the cliffs. They're quite a sight, let me tell you.
Okay, you had me at puffins. But before we get too distracted by adorable birds,
Yeah.
back to the itinerary. We're covering a lot of ground here. What's the transportation situation?
Think comfort and efficiency. You'll be traveling in comfortable tour buses with experienced guides who can share their knowledge of the area.
Okay, good. Because as much as I love the idea of exploring Iceland on the back of a, Icelandic pony or something.
You're thinking about a different kind of tour.
Right, right. So we've got our trusty tour bus, our expert guides.
Yeah.
What else do we need to know before we dive into the next leg of the journey?
Well, remember how we were talking about the unpredictable nature of the Northern Lights earlier? Well, the same goes for Icelandic weather in general. Be prepared for anything and everything.
Like bring your swimsuit and your snow boots.
Precisely.
So what you're saying is pack for every season.
Think layers. Think waterproof. Think I'm going on an adventure. Because you are. But more on that later.
Okay, duly noted. Layered clothing, check. Sense of adventure, double check. What else is on the agenda for this epic Icelandic adventure? Tell me more. Let's see, day 4. We're diving headfirst into Icelandic culture with a visit to the Skógar Museum.
Ah, yes, the Skógar Museum. A true gem. You'll get to step back in time and experience what life was like in Iceland, I don't know, 100, 200 years ago.
And they've got those turf houses, right?
They do.
Those things are so cool, like little hobbit houses built right into the hillside.
Not quite hobbit houses, but close. They're actually traditional Icelandic homes built partially underground with walls and roofs made of, get this, layers of earth and grass.
Earth and grass. Seriously, that sounds surprisingly cozy.
It was all about insulation. You know those long, harsh Icelandic winters? They needed something to keep the heat in.
Makes sense. And speaking of adapting to the elements, no trip to Iceland would be complete without a glacier sighting. So, day 5, we're up to Sólheimajökull Glacier.
Sólheimajökull, a place where you can literally walk on a glacier.
I know, right? Okay, but what's it actually like being up close and personal with something so massive, so ancient?
It's humbling, that's for sure, and a little bit awe-inspiring. You know, you're standing there looking at something that's been around for thousands of years. It really puts things in perspective.
And if that's not enough to make you feel small, our next stop is Jökulsárlón Glacial Lagoon.
Ah, Jökulsárlón. Now, this is a sight you won't soon forget. Picture this. A lagoon filled with these massive icebergs, some of them as blue as the sky, just floating serenely. And the best part...
Okay, you're going to tell me there are seals there, aren't you?
Seals! And not just any seals. We're talking harbor seals, lounging on icebergs, playing in the water. It's like something out of a nature documentary.
Okay, that settles it. Day 5 is officially my favorite day. Although, speaking of unpredictable nature, the brochure mentions that the northern lights can be a bit elusive.
That they can. Seeing the aurora is never a guarantee. It takes clear, dark skies and a little bit of luck.
So even with a Northern Lights cruise, we can't get our hopes up too high.
Exactly. But you know what? That's part of the magic, isn't it? The anticipation, the not knowing. It makes it all the more special when you do get to see them.
True. And, hey, even if the aurora doesn't cooperate, we'll still have those incredible star-filled skies.
Oh, absolutely. On a clear night, the stars in Iceland are absolutely breathtaking.
Okay, good to know. So we've got our layers, our sense of adventure, and now a healthy dose of patience for those northern lights. What else do we need to know as we dive into the back half of this itinerary?
Well, remember when we were talking about the science behind those northern lights?
Yeah, the whole charged particles colliding with Earth's atmosphere thing. Sounds pretty intense.
Well, it turns out that those collisions are responsible for more than just the lights themselves. They also determine the colors we see.
Wait, really? So it's like a giant celestial chemistry experiment happening right above our heads.
Precisely. Different elements in the atmosphere produce different colors when they're hit by those charged particles. Oxygen, for instance, tends to give off green or red light, while nitrogen can create shades of blue or purple. It's really quite fascinating.
That's incredible. I'm never going to look at the northern lights the same way again.
And that's the beauty of travel, isn't it? It opens your mind to new possibilities, new perspectives.
It really does. Now, after all that adventure and awe, it's time for some well-deserved relaxation, right?
You read my mind. Day 6 brings us to the Blue Lagoon, a place where you can literally soak your worries away.
Oh yeah, the Blue Lagoon. I've heard so much about this place. But tell me, is the water really that blue? Or is that just some clever marketing trickery?
Oh, it's blue, all right. That milky blue color comes from silica, a mineral found in the geothermal water. And when the sunlight hits it, it creates this almost surreal blue hue. It's pretty amazing.
And it's not just about the color, right? It's supposed to be really good for your skin.
Exactly. The water is full of minerals that are said to have therapeutic benefits. Think of it as a spa day, courtesy of Mother Nature.
Sign me up. That sounds like the perfect way to unwind after a few days of exploring glaciers and chasing waterfalls. And to top it all off, we've got a farewell dinner.
A final opportunity to savor some delicious Icelandic cuisine and reflect on all the incredible experiences you've had.
And probably book a flight back to Iceland for next year. Okay, running out of time here, but before we say goodbye to Iceland, what else does this magical country have in store for us?
Well, on day 7, it's time to bid farewell to the land of fire and ice. Enjoy one last delicious breakfast, remember it's included, and then soak up every last minute of Icelandic charm.
And try to sneak in a few last-minute photos of those adorable puffins.
Of course.
All right, glacier gazers and aurora chasers. We're back for one last hurrah on our Icelandic adventure deep dive.
7 days, countless waterfalls, and enough memories to last a lifetime. Though I wouldn't mind packing a few extra Skyer yogurts in my suitcase.
Speaking of food, did we ever decide if Skyer is the official national food of Iceland? Or if that honor goes to the more acquired taste of fermented shark?
Okay, I get it. You're not quite ready to embrace the, shall we say, unique flavors of fermented shark. But hey, more power to those adventure seeders out there.
Maybe I'll work my way up to it. But in all seriousness, as we've been talking about this trip, I can't help but think about all those incredible meals we'd be enjoying along the way.
Absolutely. 11 meals included, remember? From cozy cafes in Reykjavík to those charming countryside restaurants, you'll have plenty of opportunities to savor the flavors of Iceland.
And isn't there something about how food connects you to a place? Like, you're not just tasting the food, you're tasting the culture, the history, the whole experience.
100%. It's like that saying, you don't really know a country until you've tasted its food. And believe me, Iceland has some pretty incredible stories to tell through its culinary traditions.
And I have a feeling, based on everything we've explored in this deep dive, that those stories are going to be epic.
They will be. From the raw power of those geysers and waterfalls to the stark beauty of those black sand beaches. Every corner of Iceland whispers tales of fire and ice, myth and marvel.
It's like stepping into a completely different world.
It is. And that's the beauty of travel, isn't it? It transports you, challenges you, and ultimately transforms you.
Well said. We started this deep dive with a simple itinerary, and now, I don't know about you, but I'm already planning my next trip back.
As you should. Iceland has a way of working its magic on you.
It really does. But for now, we've got to land this plane.
And what a landing it's been. This journey, curated just for you from the itinerary you provided, has taken us from the bustling streets of Reykjavík to those breathtaking glacial lagoons.
We've hiked glaciers, chased waterfalls, and maybe even braved a bite of fermented shark, or at least we've dreamt about it. But most importantly, I think, we've discovered that sometimes the most incredible adventures are the ones we create ourselves.
Absolutely. So go on, fellow travelers. Embrace the unexpected, chase those northern lights, wander those black sand beaches, and let Iceland work its magic.
And if you happen to snap a photo of a puffin along the way, well, we'd love to see it. Until next time, happy